Other is SCP, secure copy. What we can, 1 second, is it disconnected? Yeah, hello. So secure shell. So secure copying, the next one. We can copy from this system to the remote system. And again, what is the format? The file to be copied and who is the user and what is the IP and even the path. Optionally, we can give the path where it has to be copied. Just like SCP, there is one more command called rsync. But one more thing is it is very intelligent in copying. It will not simply copy. Only what changes have happened that will be copied. Okay, if the file already exists in the destination system, so only changes in that file will be copied, not the entire file. If the file already exists, for example, you might have started a Python program, 120 lines are there, you might have copied it. Next, you will edit with another 10 lines. Then only those rest of the 10 lines will get copied with the rsync, not SCP. SCP is not that intelligent. SCP is just to copy the things, and rsync is for keeping it synchronized. Both the versions should be the same, local and remote. So finally, IP address is required everywhere if you want to connect to the destination system. If you want to check before that, you have to use ping command. If you want to know your IP address, use the ifconfig command, which we already discussed right now. Okay, so wget, I can just demonstrate that command because I don't have any other remote networks right now. So let me demonstrate. And yeah. Here. Let us demonstrate wget. We have our own college website, and the college website is jnnce.ac.in/. So whichever index file is there, that will get downloaded. jnnc.ac.in, if you type, every website will have an index page or a home page. The home page will get downloaded. Okay, that is what wget command. Wget with the internet URL. You can see that it is connecting to the JNNC, it is getting transferred here. If the file is already there, new version is copied, all those things are happening. Okay, so this is about copying from the internet. Directly you can copy using the wget command. You need not go and download there, right? Like that, we can use SCP, SSH for connection and other things. Next. And one more, actually, what happens from one remote Raspberry Pi, you want to connect to another Raspberry Pi. It is better to use SSH, but provided both those Raspberry Pis should be in the same network. Suppose you are developing a project where multiple Raspberry Pis are used and they need communication. Then they have to be connected via network, and these commands can be then used. System updates, basically, normally what happens when you are developing something in Python, packages will not be available. You can't expect everything is there in the system. You have to download extra. You want to do audio programming, then audio package has to be downloaded. Mic package has to be downloaded. Okay. If you want to do some image processing, the packages has to be downloaded. Like that. Whenever you are doing some new things, they have to be downloaded. For example, you want to do a web communication. It requires a package called request, and requests have to be downloaded. So how to download any package? There are options. You can use apt-get update, which will update the current packages, and apt-get upgrade. If new versions are there, you can upgrade to that. Okay. So apt-get, apt-get is the command for upgrading the packages or updating the packages, right? And updating means existing packages are updated. Upgrading means new packages are added. Okay. And all these commands are super user commands, means they have to be used with sudo. Super user do command only. You can install a particular package using apt-get install particular package, apt-get remove particular package. If you don't want the package, you can remove that. You can cache, search whether it is there in your local system. And you can see the list of packages. I think I can demonstrate that command, dpkg, which packages are already there in my system. So dpkg -l is the command. You can see that list of packages are already available. So if you want to add a new package, you can use apt-get. If you want to remove that, apt-remove, like that. Different commands are there. apt-get install for adding the new package, apt-get remove for removing the available packages. And you can search in the cache whether the package is there or not. System management, you can reboot a system, you can shut down the system, you can start a services. Okay. So, for example, I'll show you one option here. You can just see that related to processes. Here, we'll do one thing. We'll open a new terminal. We'll open a new terminal. So there are two terminals right now. What I will do here is I will create cat greater than file 1. Means my intention is to create a new file. But what I will do is I will put it in the an ampersand symbol beside that. So what does it mean? It gets pushed to the background. It gets pushed to the background. You can see that there is one process in the background and the ID of the process is 1294. Now, how to see that? There is a command which process is in background, which is in foreground. There is a command called ps-a. You can see that 1294 is in background, right? Or you can also see, I think webcam can be stopped. Somebody is using that. Yeah. You can see here, lot of processes, all the processes. Question mark indicates that they don't have any terminal itself. Those processes are daemon process, long living processes. They are running continuously in background. They don't have any terminal. Those processes, their ID is coming there, PID. Terminal is not there means question mark. If terminal is there, it will show what is that. Okay, these are all having terminals. Which is the terminal they will show. Okay, if terminal is not there, it will show this in background. Okay. So right now, there are two processes are running, like we just seen there. I can kill this process. If I know the process ID, I can kill that. But before that, let me see the status. You can see pending, okay, pending process is there and other things, sleeping process and other things. Like this, you can see the list of processes. Okay. Now, how to kill a process? If I know the process ID, I can just give the process ID. What is the process ID there? Okay, let me just show the process ID. It is there here, 1294. So just give kill 1294. And now if you see, this process would have been gone. 1294 would not be there. PS1294, if you search, it is not yet killed, means it is not yet killed. So what we can do, one more option is there. If it is not getting killed, we will give -9, sure kill. Now it is not there. So there are some processes which will not listen to the normal kill. You have to go for sure killing. So for that you have to give -9. So any process, if you feel that it has to be stopped, it is simply wasting the resource, or if it is not at all working properly, not responding, we can forcefully kill that using the command kill. And when you are using the command kill, you should use the process ID. And process ID sometimes, if it is, does not respond to that, you have to give sure killing option, -9. Okay. Process management. This is called process management. So please kindly, mute your webcams. So H2OP, actually you might see that in every Windows system there is something called taskbar, okay, or what you can say the task management, right? That will be showing the list of tasks and other things. Something similar to that we have in Linux, that is in this Raspbian. So we can give the command H2P. It will be showing how much memory it is occupying and what is the priority, how much CPU it is taking, all those things we can see with this, right? So complete analysis of the process can be done using the command H2P command, okay? Right? And even CPU temperature you can measure using this command vcgen-cmd measure temperature. It will let you to measure the temperature and find out whether the CPU is really busy or whether it is free. We can find out that. Commands are there. Raspbian commands, we can configure anything using Raspberry config. Okay. Actually, presently they have given a front end itself. We don't depend on the command. Of course, we were earlier using this. Whenever we are using any particular sensors, some configurations need to be done. Whether serial port has to be enabled, I2C protocol has to be enabled, network has to be enabled. So many things are there. But right now they are given a convenient option in the front end itself. But earlier they were using this command Raspberry config. And it is clearly saying you have to run as root. You are a normal user Pi. You are not a root. You have to run as root. So what is that we have to do? Use the command sudo super user do raspi config. Now you can see we can do all these options, network option, boot option. Okay, everything can be changed. Anyway, normally, as I told, there is a convenient front end for that. Where is that front end is? Sorry. Here, preferences, Raspberry Pi configuration. Go to this. You can set all these things. Interfaces can be enabled, disabled, all those things can be done, right? Earlier, we were doing that same thing with a command. Even if in some of the Raspberry Pi, the interface is not available, you can use commands. Okay? You can use the command raspi config. Of course, many other useful commands are there, like if you want to capture the still image, you can use raspi still, particularly those who are working with camera modules and they want to capture the pictures, okay, now and then, they can use raspi still command itself. You need not write any plenty OpenCV program for that. You can use that. Those who want to capture the running video, they can use raspi vid. But for demonstrating that, I should have a camera module with that. I don't have any camera module right now, so I couldn't demonstrate that. And basically, any Raspberry Pi will have GPIO pins. I think they will be discussing that next also. So any interface or any sensors, actuators, they have to interface to Raspberry Pi. So they should connect to the GPIO pins. Pins will be there. You have to use that female to female or male to female. You have to connect that. Okay. So then we can control using Raspi GPIO. You can see that. Again, don't forget sudo raspi-gpio command. So you are not given it properly, at least give help if you don't know how to use it. Now here clearly mentioned, if you want to know the status of a pin, you can use get command. If you want to set something to the pin, you can use set command. So programmatically only you can do that. Sometimes what people will do is they will not write complete programs. They will just use commands and write a batch file of that and run it. It will be doing the job. Okay. You need not know complete Python or implement anything. Just with the commands also you can work. Python is one language and you can write a complete program, flexible program, all those things. But even without the knowledge of that, what we can do is we can open a shell script, write all the commands and run the shell script. Automatically it will do. Even you can schedule that script using cron command, we can schedule it. So at whichever time you will tell, it will run, or how frequently you will tell, it will run. If you want to run a particular script at some point of time, you can use cron tab command, cron d or cron tab command. Also, you can tell how frequently it has to run. So that is sufficient then. Whatever we want, we can control through the commands and make that script run whenever we want. That itself will do the job of, many projects. Whether it's an image processing, webcam processing, whatever. You want to do a mask detection. If you want to do mask detection, you want to first capture the image. For capturing the image, you can use raspi still command, okay, through IoT, like that. Yes, next. We'll go to the Python programming. So that is what we have. Anyway, Python programming is not much different from any other languages. I will take it a little fast. 1 second. We'll end this particular PPT. Okay, we will now start with the next portion. Very basic things I have put there because further stuff will come to you in during the next sessions. Okay, so let us not put everything in the same session. At least how to write a program, how to use the syntax and other things are there. Exhaustive PPT is there. Let me see how far we can go through that. I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Python programming. It's the most recent, means in the terms of decades, at least it is the most recent popular scripting language, mind you. It is a scripting language. When I am talking about scripting language, the odd syntax and data type declaration, all those things will not be there. The programming is little simple. Okay, not much focus is there on data types and syntax declarations and many other things. Okay, 1991 is the origin and it is borrowed from many other languages and it is also object oriented. Many features are there. You can see why Python is preferred. Okay, first of all, it has all the tools. It can do system admin tools, command line tools can be called, okay? And rapid prototyping, you can develop very fast. The programs can be developed in short time. It is what we call rapid development or rapid prototyping. And language-based modules are there. The main advantage of Python is modules. For everything, there are modules. If you want to do web communication, request module is there. If you want to do image processing, OpenCV module is there. Okay. If you want to do machine learning, SCK, Learn SCKit, all those are there. If you want to do natural language processing, NLTK is there. First, you have to decide which area you want to work, and based on that area, a lot of modules are available in Python. Machine learning can be done, natural language processing can be done. Artificial intelligence modules are there. Many modules are available. Deep learning modules are there. TensorFlow, Keras. But before you go to those modules, first you know the basics of the language. Okay, that is what this session is all about. And of course, you can develop graphical user interfaces. You can develop a GUI application also. There is a library called as tkinter in Python that helps you to develop a GUI. Just like Visual Basic and Android, like that, you develop a GUI. We can develop GUI in Java Swings, if you do that. Normally, here also we can do that using a library called as tkinter. If you want to develop a web application front end, you can use many useful packages like Django, or you can use Flask. Okay. Database access can be done. You can connect to the relational databases, non-relational databases, cloud databases. You can connect to any of them. Distributed parallel processing is there, internet scripting is there, internet programming is there, scrapping is there. If I speak about the features, that itself will be one big session. So many features are there, right? Very useful and very versatile language, very short language, very rapid language. Quickly you can develop, that is Python. Unlike C or C++, Python statements do not, okay, who are very beginners, you should remember this. If you already practiced in one or the other language, you will put a semicolon always at the end. If you are a C programmer, C++ programmer, Java programmer, you put a semicolon. But Python do not have semicolon, but Python follows something called as indentation. Okay, no braces are there. It's an interpretive program. And even without programming also, writing a separate program also, you can interact. You can enter the statements directly in the Python environment like that. I will show you that. I'll show you that. Both the flavors, let me show you, whatever I told right now. I'll go to this again. Okay. Terminal is not required for me right now. If you go to this Raspberry Pi and go to the programming environment, there are two options as far as Python is concerned. Many other languages are there. Java is there, Scratch is there, okay. But as far as Python is concerned, there are two options. Old option is Python 2. Still they have kept it because there are some modules that still depend on old version of Python. They have not yet been upgraded to newest Python. Some Bluetooth communication and other things, they are still working in old Python, that is Python 2. But most of them, majority of them have transferred to Python 3. Versions are still different versions of Python, that's all, Python 2 and Python 3. So if you just connect to the Python 2, one simple example to see the difference between Python 2 and Python 3. See the shell here, this is the shell who can interact with us. Okay, I can use the statements in the shell here, like print hello. It will understand and print it. Okay, this is Python 2.7, but when I transfer to another version, that is Python 1 second. Yeah, this is Python 3.5. Of course, if you want to go to the next level, machine learning, Anaconda, and other things, you require a higher version of Python. Here, if I give the same statement, print hello, it will not work because in Python 3 and onwards, they have changed the syntax and braces are compulsory. Okay, so that small deviation is a little bit syntax changes also they have made from Python 2 to Python 3. Okay, next, let us write a small program, and in that small program, what we will do is we'll accept the data from the user and welcome him. Okay, we'll ask the name from the user and welcome that particular user. Okay, so for that I'll write a program rather than using command line. Okay, I will do one thing. I will just restart the VNC. That's all. 1 second. It is here. Yes. Go to Python. Open this again. Go to file. Sorry. Go to a new file. First of all, ask from the user, means there should be a facility to read from keyboard. Any language will give you a facility to read from keyboard. You go to C programming, they provide you scanf. You go to Java, there is a stream for that. Okay, scanner dot something is there, parse. Okay, scanner class is there for reading from keyboard. C++ gives you a cin statement for doing that. Like that, there should be a facility in Python also. And let us say name is what we want. I want to know your name. So I will give the statement called input. Input is a function that will prompt or get the data from the user. Read a string from the keyboard. So give the prompt message, enter your name. Enter your name. So whichever name user enters, that will be printed. So print of name. A very simple or simplest program I can tell. No need of semicolon or nothing, right? So let us say save, Control S. Okay, let me say nm is my program. So greet, okay, very proper name, greet, greeting you, greet.py. Definitely the workshop we want to greet you. So we are greeting it, asking your name, enter your name. Say I will give Robin. Robin comes. Maybe something I can append to that because whatever you typed, you got the same thing. Let me put something else to that, like welcome. Okay. But if I write like this, entire thing within double quotes, what problem happens is you will get welcome name itself. You will not get welcome with whatever you give. Let us run again. And user says Robin. I got welcome name. Name should not come, the variable should come. In that case, this is called literal. Literal and variable should be separated. Because the name is a variable, welcome is a literal. Okay. So literal should be kept separate and name should be separate, like this. Welcome one side and name one side. Plus, concatenated using plus. Concatenation of literal and variable should happen. You can't include variable directly inside the double quote. Okay, this is one technique. I will tell you a second technique also. This is one of the technique. You have a literal, you have the variable, concatenate them. That's all. Run module. Again, I will ask Robin. Now you will get welcome Robin. At least something has been added to that. Okay. But suppose that I want to print welcome Robin to the Atal workshop. Welcome Robin to the Atal workshop I want to give. Then again, welcome is okay. That is a literal. Name is Robin. Any other name can be Robin, Ganguly, Sachin, anything. That is a name. After that, to the workshop is again a literal. So again you have to use concatenation. So many times you have to concatenate. Okay. For example, to the workshop. So we have concatenated three things now. One is the welcome, variable name, and the literal to the workshop. Okay. So let us run that. Let's say Robin. Once again. Okay, Robin. Some name. So welcome Robin to the workshop. Fine. Suppose this workshop has to be variable, like Atal workshop. I have to ask the user which is the workshop. So I have to ask that. Or I can store it, like workshop is equal to. You need not ask also, you can store it. Now what happens? You will have two literals and two variables. Welcome is a literal, to the workshop is a literal, but in between I have to insert the variables, name and workshop. So concatenation becomes clumsy sometimes. Okay. So much of concatenation becomes clumsy. So there is an easier technique for doing all these things. That is, don't go for any concatenation itself, first of all. Do like this. So you write placeholders or format specifiers. So name is a string, so I will write percentages. Workshop is also a string, so welcome is to the percentages workshop. That's all. Welcome percentages to the percentages workshop. What do you mean by percentages? It is a string. This is called format specifier. There are a lot of format specifiers. If I write %s, it means string. %d means integer. %f means float, like that. Depending on the type of the data you have, you write the specifier. Right now, my variables are having only string. Yeah, it is similar to C programming. The programming language is almost the same, but declarations are not required. You use int, char, those declarations are not required. Okay, you can directly use it. You need not declare any variables, right? A format specifiers, yes, exactly similar to the string. In printf we use that. Here we use in print. But there we have to write variables later. How to write the variables? You put a percentage, and then inside the tuple you have to write a variable. What is the variable? Name, comma, workshop. Like this. So there are two variables grouped now, name and workshop, right? So first percentages will refer to name variable. Second percentages will refer to the workshop variable. So let us save and run that. Called Robin. So welcome Robin to the Atal workshop. Here, Robin and Atal are variables. They are getting the data from the variables. Okay. So this is the case. Now, let us increase a little bit more complexity to the program. What I want to check is, if the user is, what I say, for example, if the username is Prakash, only that user should be allowed. Or Pramod. If the user is Pramod, only Pramod should be allowed. No other user should be allowed. No other user should be greeted. If you are given a different name, you should get, sorry, you are not authenticated. If you are given correct name, you should be authenticated. Okay. So now, what is that? You have to make a checking. You can't simply greet it. You have to make a checking, conditional. The greeting becomes conditional now. And just like C programming, what is the statement for checking condition? We use if statement. We use a if statement, but there is a small deviation in the syntax. Syntax changes are there. So how to check that? If the name double equals Pramod, then put a colon at the end. Normally when you are writing in C programming or Java, you write if statement, write a parenthesis, inside that you write a condition and then use floor bracket, like that. There is no floor bracket. Every statement should end with a colon, and all these control statements. If statement, while statement, for statement, they all should end with a colon. So if name equals Pramod, colon, print it. Now you can see that I have deliberately let this tab space. There is a tab space at the beginning. This is called indentation. Through the indentation itself, it will identify what is the beginning and what is the end. As long as it is inside the indentation, they are all part of the statement. When it comes outside the indentation, there is outside the loop or outside the statement. So indentation is a compulsory factor in Python. You can't write like this. This is wrong. Syntax is wrong. You have to leave a space. Okay. Indentation strictly will be checked by Python interpreter. Okay. Okay. Fine. Otherwise, else part. Else part. You can write print not registered. Not registered. Not registered. So based on my input, it will greet me according to that. So let me check that. So if I give Robin again, what I will get? I should get not registered. But if I give Pramod itself, of course it is case sensitive. It is case sensitive. You get welcome message. So it is conditional now. If my username matches, I get a welcome message. If my username does not match, it will get not registered. But this program will not be scalable. Why? Because as you can see, there are hundreds of participants to the workshop. You have to keep on checking one by one. If user equals Pramod, if user equals Satya, if user equals XYZ, you have to compare. 100 times I have to write. If they say me there are 200 participants, I have to write 200 if conditions. So there is a better alternative in Python. Okay. What we can do is, we can store the list of registered users. Let me create a list of registered users. Let us say the variable is LR. LR indicates a list of registered users. Let me create a list here. What is the list? Let me write Pramod is okay. Krishna is okay. Mohit is okay. Nobody else. Any of the three, I'm okay, but not others. Now the code has to change. What is that? Don't compare with Pramod. The name should be one in the list. Then you are allowed. If your name is one in the list of registered users, you are allowed. So naturally, you have to use the statement in. So name in LR will be used. Okay. So let us check this program. It should work for at least those three. If I give Krishna, yes, you get it. Let us test for Mohit. Mohit, that's fine. Let me test for Robin. Pramod again. Let me test. Not registered. Why? Case sensitive. P is in caps, but what I entered in the data is P is in small. So now that should not happen. Case sensitivity, because end user does not know what case you are given, nobody knows that. Okay, and that should not be a problem as long as your spelling is correct. It should be allowed. Correct. So what we can do for that? Any solution? Yes, there should be a solution. Let us check that. What is that? We will do one thing. We will store all the names in lowercase itself. That is first thing we will do. In our database of list, we will store everything in lowercase. That becomes a standard. Okay. While storing, you store everything in lowercase. User can enter anything, but storing is in our hand. So we will store everything in the lowercase. Let user enter in whichever case he wants, he or she wants. Now, whatever user has entered, let us convert that to lowercase. How to convert that into lowercase? So name is equal to name dot lower. We convert using the function lower. User will enter a name. That name you convert to dot lower. Okay. Now let us check whether the lowercase uppercase problem is solved. Adike, we will deliberately test a wrong case. Is welcome. Why? Lower cases. He is converted to lower case, and lower case is test again the predefined list. And since there is a match, he is allowed or he is welcome. But there is one annoying factor. Every time we are closing the terminal, running again, closing the terminal, running again, I want to keep it open because people will be coming for registration now and then. I can't run the program again. This registration program, I cannot keep on running manually one by one. It should be available always. Okay. So how to do that? I can keep an infinite loop here. Like, so if you want to use a loop, you have to use a statement called while. And in that while, I will use true. True indicates a Boolean value. While true means there is no condition, unconditional it is, always it will run. No end only, it will always keep on running. Okay. While true colon. Now you can see that all the code should come inside this. So there is an easier alternative. Just select entire thing. Sorry, select the code what you wrote earlier. Now they should all come inside while. So select the entire code what you wrote earlier. Go to format and click indent. Indentation is a compulsory job. Okay. So you can see there are two levels of indentation now. First is while, inside that there is if, inside the if there is print. One level and two levels. Okay. While inside that if, and in that if there is a print. Now this program is an infinite program, but you should keep on asking the end user always. So cut this and put it here. Of course, push this. Okay. So workshop is there. List is there. Keep on asking the user again and again. Whoever is registered, they will be entered. Who is not registered, they will get a message. That's all. So now we have completely running system. So let us use a run module. Ask the name. So let us say Pramod, allowed. Let us say Sheetal, not registered. Let us say Rahul. not registered. Let us say Krishna. Now this is a continuously running system. Of course, one extra H has been there. Continuously running system. Now one question will come, how to end this? This program will never end. It will keep on running. It's an infinite system. And it's open. But everything should have an end. You should end this. How to do? Press Control C. Forcefully I want to terminate. Quit. Control C. An interrupt gets raised and the program stops. Keyboard interrupt you have to raise. If you want to stop the program forcibly, raise a keyboard interrupt. And how to raise that? Press Control C. And then the program stops. So we have used this entire thing one by one. First, we started with a simple printing, reading and printing. Then we attached the variables. And then printing formatted we have seen. Then we introduced if condition. Then we introduced while. We introduce a list. So all these things builds and become a program. That is how programming comes, right? You may study everything separately, but how to use them together is also important. That is how a program is built, okay? And this is an example of an overview of a Python program, how it gets built, okay? Let us see a little more on the syntax so that you can also come to know what are the various features available in Python already. Having seen through this basic program, some idea might be there, how to write a program, how to keep indentation, how to write the syntax. Little bit I have gone to the mind. So now it's a time to, explore how to run a specific number of iterations instead of infinite. Okay, that's fine. I'll come to that, okay? I'll just come to that. Suppose 10 times I want to run or 4 times I want to run, how to do that? Yes, finite number of times. I will show here itself, okay? There are 2 techniques. Suppose, as the sir told, I want to fix the iterations, 3. Only 3 times you should ask. Within 3 times, just like our ATM, 3 times if you don't give, card gets blocked. Okay, so let us try that. Iterations is equal to 3. Then instead of writing while true, you start with a counter. Let us say counter is equal to 1. As long as counter is less than or equal to iterations. I have 2 variables. One is how many iterations you want and what is the starting point. Starting point, of course, is 1. And how many times you can do? Count is equal to 1 is okay, count is equal to 2 is okay, count is equal to 3 is okay, but when it comes 3, it should come out. Okay. So the while loop is limited now. There is a limit, there is a finite mechanism. So count less than or equal to iterations, you have to do that. But don't forget doing one more thing, count plus plus. Because count should increment, otherwise always it will be in 1 only. And it is again same as previous case, infinite loop. You start with 1, next time it has to become 2. So you have to make count plus plus. Now this program has got 3 iterations. Count is equal to 1, first iteration, again plus plus, 2, second iteration, plus plus, 3, third iteration, like that. But there is one odd behavior of Python. I'll just show while running this. Let us run this first. Yes, it's just like C or C++ only, okay? Yeah. See, there is no, program is not running. That means that there is some syntax error. If you are not getting anything, earlier it was coming, enter your name, that is not coming now. Means there is some syntax error. So just close the shell and see that there is an invalid syntax. Plus plus operator is not allowed in Python. Plus plus operator is not there. Minus minus operator, pre-increment, post-increment, whatever you do in C or Java, you do that. Plus plus, minus minus, it is not there. It is not supported in Python. So what is the alternative? You can write, instead of that, just like our C, we can use shortcut. Count plus equals 1. Otherwise, if you don't know that, count is equal to count plus 1. Count is equal to count plus 1. Shortcut is count plus is equal to 1. That's all. So, let us run this. Now it is coming. So, let me give something. First to Pollard. No. Then Rohit Sharma. No. Raina. No. Done. Limited. 3. The program terminates. I need not use Control C again. So this is for finite number of iterations. This is one mechanism. But the problem with this program is you have to use a variable called count, you have to use a variable called iterations, you have to use count plus 1. So many things are there. If you know exactly how many iterations are there, don't use while loop. While loop is specifically meant if the number of iterations is indefinite. You don't know in advance. Then don't use while loop. If you know exactly, prefer for loop, not the while loop. Use for loop. Okay. I'll just change a program, but before that, let me comment. How to comment in Python? Of course, you have an easy mechanism. Select whatever you want, and you can use comment here option. So hash, you can use hash. Even single hash is sufficient. That is also comment. Single hash, double hash, everything is comment. Line by line, you have to comment. Okay. You can't directly comment using slash star. Multi-line comments are not there. In C or C++ and Java, you might have studied, there is a multi-line comment. You can, completely comment a region. It is not there. But for your convenience, in this idle editor, idle is having an editor, there is an option called as comment out and uncomment out. You can use that. To comment a particular region continuously, you can use comment. If you want to uncomment that, there is an option called uncomment. Okay. Now, we will change the program. Don't use this. For I in range of 3. Now comes another statement called range. I think there's a new statement in Python, not there in the other language. I in range of 3. Now, first of all, you have to wonder what is range actually. For that, let me show it in the shell. What I will do is, first I will tell you what is range. So for that, let us go to program. I have just opened another shell to explain you what is range. Let us say range of 3. What you will get? 0, 3. If you include it in a list of range of 3, you get 0, 1, 2. So I will take 0, 1, and 2. 3 iterations. 0, 1, and 2. 3 iterations if you want, you just give range of 3. 10 iterations you want, range of 10. If that iteration is from the keyboard, give the n value. That's all, range of n. Okay. Many other useful options are there. Like if I give range of 3, 5, what I will get? Range of 3, 5. So I will get 3, 4, 5. Okay. It is better to put that with a list. You will get 3, 4, 5. One more example. Range of 3, 7, 2. What I will get? Third argument. So list range of 3, 7, 2. So I got 3 and 5. See, actually, 3, 7 means 3, 4, 5, 6 actually. So let me demonstrate that. Take this. Three, 7. What is that? First, we will try to understand. What is range of 3, 7? 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is excluded always. Okay. This is excluded. Close it. So 3, 7. Half open, what they call it is excluded. 3, 7. 3, 4, 5, 6. If I give third argument 2, what does it mean is steps. Normally the step is 1. Means after 3, 4 will come. After 4, 5 will come. Like that. But if I give step as 2, after 3, 5 will come. So even steps can be specified. Okay. So this is what 3, 7, 2. Why we got only 3 and 5? Because 3 is the first one. After that we get 5. 4 has to be excluded because the step size is 2. Next number is 7, but 7 is not in the list. Therefore only 3 and 5. So this is a very useful function called as range that will generate the iteration numbers. You need not write count is equal to 0. You have earlier you are maintaining count for that. Count is equal to 0, count plus you are doing. That is generated with range only. You need not do that. Python has a facility called range. Okay. So let us close that and come back to this. So I in range of 3 means 3 iterations. Okay. So that is like the for syntax. Yeah. I is equal to 0, I plus plus. No, that syntax is not there. This is the syntax. I think you have a for loops, 3 compartments there, initialization, condition checking, that's what. Somewhat similar to that we have here. Okay. Yeah. Now let us run this program and check whether it is really correct, the syntax is correct. Okay. So Krishna, Now comes a problem because I have not removed the count statement. So program terminates there itself. So let me put that. So Krishna, what else you have? Ramesh, Pramod, so 3 times, finally 3 iterations. Okay, is it clear? Now one may ask, suppose I have given the name correctly, it should not continue, it should stop there itself. Okay, normally that is what happens. You got pin, if I give correctly, it will go to the next operation. It will not again go and ask you, give me the pin. So if my registration information is wrong, let it ask it. If my registration information is correct, let it stop there. It should not ask again. How to do that? How to do that? Yes. This is the correct statement, right? If name in LR, that is the correct case. You are printing it, fine. After printing that, you are continuing further. Come out. How to come out? Break. Just like your C. Break statement. Break and continue. If you recall in C, same thing we have here. Break. Let us see whether break really works. Go to run module. Let us give Pramod. The program exits. The program does not continue for the rest of the 2 iterations. It stops there itself. It stops there itself. Okay. Now this is the technique. Is this clear? We have built one by one so many things. We started with the print statement, we started with the input statement, we have added a list, we have added a if statement, we have used while, we have used for, range statement was used, these things, right? So these are the different things we had. Let me add one more feature now. To exploit Python, I'm just adding to the same program, okay? I can demonstrate them independently, but if we apply that, it will be much more better, that is what I feel. So I will continue with the same program itself. Let me add one more feature. What I want right now is, let us not pre-exit like this. Let us not exit. Let this process continue until the user press the exit. Let it continue. They shall keep on registering, coming, then going out. Let them happen. Okay. It is just like a Google Meet. You join, you come out. Again you join, you come out. You'll be doing that. Network issue or many other issue. Phone call, something. You go out and come back. My job is to count how many times you have registered, how many times you have entered. I want to keep track, every user. Here we have 3 examples, Pramod, Krishna and another person I have given there. Okay. So those 3, how many times they have registered or how many times they have entered this system, I want to know. How many times? I want to keep track of that. I want to count it. Okay. So let us try that. How to do it? Very easily in Python. Of course, many programming, other things you can do for doing that, but easier. Counters, we can maintain so many counters, we can do that. Much easier option is there in Python. To keep track of counting, how many times you came, to keep track of that. There is an easier technique. So we will do one thing now. We will go back to infinite part. What is that? How to write infinite? You have to just write while true. Again, remember, while writing true or false, first letter should be in caps. Don't write like this, because normally we are practiced with this. Clearly, it is not getting highlighted because it is not a useful, it is not a correct keyword. You have to use capital T. Whether a false other, you have to use capital F. Okay, fine. Now, whenever the user enters, we have to count his occurrence. We have to have a counter somewhere. What I want to know is how many times Pramod entered, how many times Krishna entered, and how many times Mohit entered. Just I want to keep track of the counter. One solution is you maintain separate counter for everybody. Use a variable count 1 for Pramod, count 2 for Krishna, count 3 for Mohit. Compare who was that and then count accordingly. But that is not a scalable solution. If there are hundreds of users, again hundreds of conditions and hundreds of counters you want. Correct? Hundreds of users, 100 times you have to compare who is that, and based on that, their counter you have to increment. So hundreds of users, hundreds of counters will be required. Let us not do that way. Let us do it easily. Okay. Let us have a single table. Let us have a single table where the key will be the users and value will be the count. Let us create a single table like a dictionary. Dictionary means what you will have, not dictionary. You will have a word and its meaning. You open any dictionary, you will search for a word and its meaning, key and value. Here also I will create a dictionary where I will have the names in the key and the number of times they entered the system in the values. So what to do for that? I will write, create a dictionary like this. D is equal to dict. Python provides a keyword called dict to create a dictionary. Because dictionary is very easy to implement. Once you store everything in dictionary, you can print a dictionary, right? So D is equal to dict. Then, whenever the user comes, you have to just write D of name. Name can be anything. Name can be Krishna, Pramod, or Mohit, anything, anybody. So D of name. His counter should be incremented. So how to do that? Of course, we have an easier solution. D of get name comma 0 plus 1. Sorry, D is equal to, D of name is equal to. I'll explain what is this. So D is our dictionary, and inside that the key is the name. Name can be Pramod, Krishna, or Mohit. Is equal to D dot get name comma 0. If the name is not there in the dictionary, it will be 0. If the name is already there, previous counter. If the first time is entering the system, it will show 0. The second time is entering the system, it will be 1. Third time 2. So name comma 0 means D dot get of name comma 0 means either the current value or the 0 value. First time if it is there, 0. Otherwise, the current value plus 1. So with this code, let us print dictionary also. Okay, we have to check whether the user does not want to terminate the program. How to terminate the program? You can directly check here. What is that? If the user gives exit, just break. You keep on running the system. And then, because there should be an endpoint, otherwise the program will never end. Okay. Then print the dictionary, what you have accumulated so far. So you create a dictionary, check whether the user is pressing exit, come out, and then accumulate the dictionary. User-wise, you store the counter. Store the counter user-wise. Okay. Let us check whether this really works or something else to be done. Sorry, I pressed check module. Let me remove this. Yeah. Okay, enter your name. Shamant. Sorry, or is it Pramod? So Pramod, Krishna, again Pramod. One more user, Pramod, Krishna, and who is there? Mohit. Okay. Mohit. Some junks also will go, rams, jams, spams, something like that. Okay, I am okay with this. Done with this, sorry, I'm done with this. So I'll give exit. Now you can see that Pramod has entered 2 times, Mohit has entered 1 time, Krishna has entered 1 time. So we have a counter ready with us. Okay. So that is how Python programming is rapid. It is very fast to build. Mind you, the same thing if you want to implement in C, you need to have arrays, you need to initialize that, you have to create a size for that. If size is going to be an issue, you have to dynamically allocate that. So many other things will come. But this is very easy in the case of Python, dictionary usage. Okay. So list and dictionary, and just like the tuple is also there, they are all very useful data structures in Python. Anybody coming with Python, basics of Python, should at least study these 3 things: list, dictionary, and tuple. Actually, list and tuple is same. They look like an array only. If it is a list, you put that in a square bracket. For example, you go back to this program. We have a list now. This is called list. Right. So list is there, Pramod, Krishna, Mohit is there. Fine. That is a list. Same thing if you write like this. This is called list actually. I'll write a comment and I'll write list. Let me copy the same thing. Tuple, TR. And the syntax is you have to write parentheses. You have to write parentheses. This is the case. Is this clear? So tuple is having a parenthesis notation and list is having the, apart from that, the internal difference is mutability. Now, what is mutability? And understand what is mutability. Okay. I will demonstrate one small program for mutability itself. Yeah, mutability. Even program is not required. I can even demonstrate in the shell itself. So can I run directly Python here? Yes, it is possible. You can do here also. But it will go to the old shell 2.7. No problem. The list tuple features are same. No problem. This is another way of starting Python. Either I need not go to the start symbol and do that. I can do here itself. Just type Python. It will come there. Now, here, let us say s is equal to hello. Then I will write s dot lower. What else will do? Just now we discussed that function. S is a string hello, and what s dot lower will do? It will convert that into lowercase. If you type s again, it is still in uppercase. It is not yet converted. S dot lower returns hello, but when I again go for s, it is still in the original case only. Means the original value cannot be changed. You have assigned once hello, it cannot be changed again. That is called immutability. Those who do not change, they are called immutable. Mutability means changing. Strings are immutable. Strings are immutable means whatever you have assigned, you cannot change that. And that is what happening here. How to change it? You have to do like this. If you simply write s dot lower, it will not work. You have to write s is equal to s dot lower. And then go for s, you will get it. So when the assignment becomes compulsory, that means it is immutable. If it is not compulsory, it is mutable. For example, let me create a list. L is equal to one list, 1, 2, 3. I close it, 1, 2, 3. Going down. Yeah. Then give L. You have 1, 2, 3. 1 second. The clear screen is not there, I think. Not there. Yeah, Control L you have to press. For clearing, Control L. Control L. Okay. Okay. We thought of L, which is 1, 2, 3, which is a list, right? Let me call a function append. And let me append 4, 5. It says I only take one argument, so I will correct it. I'll put one more list notation here. So what my intention is, I want to append one list to another. One list is already there, 1, 2, 3. I want to append that to this. So I have to append in a list format itself. Now if you see L, it is done. So as you can see, I did not assign L is equal to L dot append. I simply wrote L dot append. Means the existing list itself is changed, right? The existing list was 1, 2, 3. Later I appended 4, 5. So existing list itself got modified and it became 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is called mutability. Lists are mutable. You need not assign back. They will be automatically changing. Let us do the third one, tuple. T is equal to, the notation is use parenthesis 1, 2, 3. T dot append 4, 5. I don't know, you can give it as a tuple. I think tuple assignment is not there. T dot insert, I think. Let us check. All the methods are not there. We have to check which is the method available for tuple. Let us check in the net, no problem. What is the method to insert in tuples? Let us check that and do the insertion. Appending tuples. Search that in Python. You can't add elements to a tuple because of the immutability property. That is what I wanted to say. There is no append or there is no extend. Tuples are immutable. And it is a static list. You cannot change that. When you know that the list is not going to change, then use tuple. But of course, they are efficient than list. In terms of memory, they are efficient than list. But unfortunately, they are static. Whereas list is possible. Okay. See, there is no direct way. I wanted to show you how it can be done or not. It is not possible. Why? Because they are immutable. So if we summarize the three things, we started with the mutability, immutability. String is immutable. You cannot change string. You have to assign back. List is mutable. You can change it. Again, tuple is immutable. So therefore, whether I have to go for list or whether I have to go for tuple, the decision is, if your list is not going to change, use tuple, because that is going to be very efficient. Otherwise, you have to always go for list. So that choice between data structures have to be made. Data structures. Of course, we have also used one more data structure called as dictionary today. And in dictionary, you have seen key and value and how to write the program. So coming back to our program, I think most of the features were added in the program. One second. One second. Let us close this and open again. VNC any times you can open, any number of times, don't bother. Raspberry Pi is running, so there is no issue. We can give exit and come out, I think. One second. Sorry, one second. Yeah, closing the window. Yeah, coming back to this program. So we have done so many options. If you keep on recalling, okay, this was just to demonstrate. This is not list. This is called as tuple. So we had a list. We have got the names and multiple registrations were taken multiple times. We have counted how many times they have registered. Now, one more thing I want, like rather than defining the list like this, because if there are hundreds of users, I cannot keep on typing one by one inside the program. Can we do one more thing here? Can't we maintain the list of users in a file and then import those users here? That would be better. See, this program says that I want a list of users, and manually we have created 3 users. Suppose a new user I want, I have to add here. So rather than changing the program again and again, which is not, a good practice of programming. So what we can do is we can maintain the list of users in a file and use that file here. Okay. So how to do that? So for that, let us do one more, we shall create one more file. Let us create one more file. You can use any text editor if it is available. Okay, let us take Python itself, no problem. Just see what I'm going to do now. But 1 second. You can use file and create new file. Let me create the users Pramod, Pramod, Krishna, Ramesh, Sujit. So 4 users I have kept here. You can always extend it. So let us save the users as users.txt. Don't use Python now. It should be text file. So users.txt. One second. Save. It is okay. Now, what is the file name? Select type as text files and type users. So this user list should come here now. Okay. So how to do that? You have to first do some file handling now. File handling APIs are required. Again, if you go back to C programming, there is fopen, fread, fwrite, fgets. I think many APIs you might have used if you are doing file in C programming. File handling itself has so many function calls and APIs. Like that Java, if you know, I think there are classes available, file stream, file, scanner, so many things are there. But when I come to Python, it is still easy. Again, file handling is also easier. All that you have to do is, of course, you have to use OpenAPI. So fetch is equal to open. What is the file? Users.txt. I'm assuming that users.txt is in the same directory. same folder, users.txt. I'm trying to open users.txt and I'm getting a handler. Then automatically, if I write for user in the list fh, I'll get one by one user. Automatically, line by line, it will read. When you open the file, you will get a handler. The handler is capable to read the file automatically using for loop. If you read it in for loop, line by line, you will get it. So 4 times this iteration for loop will run for 4 users. If there are 100 users, 100 times it will run. So what I will do right now is I will initialize the list as empty. Initialize the list as empty. Let us, for the time being, don't bother about these things. So comment it. Yeah, list is empty. And keep on adding that. How to keep on adding? lr.append of user. That is how to load all the users from a file. The rest of the things are same. The program will not change because program has been already written properly. Only thing is we have to find out the list from the file, not from the directly from the program. Okay. So let us run that. Again, Pramod, Mohit, so not registered. So none of the users it is saying registered. There is one technical problem still remaining. We have to track that. What is that? Let us test anybody else. In the code, Sujit, we are given. No, it is not at all accepting anyone. Okay, so it is better to stop the program. Dictionary empty. Nobody was recognized. Even though my file handling code, everything is correct, but nobody was recognized. The problem is, I will tell you, I will show you, demonstrate you what is the problem. Let us print the user which we have read from the file. Let us print the user which we have read from the file. So in the file, you have kept the list of users. Let us print that. Who is that? Okay. So let us run that again. See, this is the problem. Can you observe? In between every user, there is a blank line. In between every user, there is a blank line. So new line is getting added there. When you're reading from the file, new line is getting added. So it is not Pramod actually. Pramod / n is the data. And Pramod / n is not matching with Pramod. Or it is Sujit / n and not Sujit. Mohit / n and not matching with Mohit. So /n is interfering here. Okay. That is getting added. Whenever you read from the file, automatically /n gets added. And that is actually coming in the way of comparison. Comparison is not working. Why? Because extra /n character is getting added everywhere while reading from the file. So for that reason, Python has given a useful function to nullify that effect. And what you have to do is you have to write user is equal to user.strip. So the function strip, what it will do is it will remove the new lines, extra new line what is appended or prepended, sorry, appended, correct. Extra new line what is appended, that will be removed. Stripping, it will strip. User is equal to user.strip. Okay. You have to assign that because it is immutable. Change what you do. New line is removed and given, but that is not changing original. You have to again copy back. That is called immutability. Strings are immutable. It is a string function, strip. All string functions are immutable. You have to assign back. Answer has to be assigned back. With the opposite, you have to assign back. This is required. If you remove this, it will not work. You have to assign back. But for list, we are not assigning anything. Simply we are calling lr.append. It will do the job. The reason is list is mutable, whereas string is immutable. Okay. Let us check the code now, whether it is working. Let us start with Pramod, Mohit, not registered Mohit, okay. Who else is there? Mohit, I think, HIT. Yeah, no, not there. Pramod again is there. Sujit is there. Exit. Come on. Mohit was not there. Let us see the user list. Let us see the users.txt. Only 4 was there. You can add a 5th user, Mohit. No problem. Program will start working. Program will start working. You need not change any program. You can add to the file. Okay, whichever user you want to allow, you can just add it. You can create blacklist, you can create whitelist, you can do that. So Mohit should be allowed now. Yes, it is there. One time he has entered. So we have introduced, rather than getting the data, rather than putting the data in the program itself, we have got the data from the file, external resource, using the file handling. So read the file, and whenever you read from the file, you can use it direct for loop to read line by line. But there is a small problem, that is new line gets added. So we have to remove the new line using the strip function. So it's a combo app normally. For with strip, automatically they will write while writing Python program. Okay. Now, final thing, rather than printing that on the screen, why not print the answer in a file? Why can't we directly put the answer into a file? Rather than printing on the screen, you can directly do that. But in that case, actually programming is not required. What we can do is we can redirect the output using greater than symbol. But anyway, I will use file handling now. At the end, what I will do is, okay, result is available. So what I will do is I will not print the result here. What I will do is I'll use output file. Let me open the file. Just say result dot text. Give the mode also, right? If you don't give the mode, it will assume that you have opened the file for reading and it will not allow writing. If you are reading the file, if you are opening the file for reading, no need to do anything. But if you want to do writing, you have to give W there, which indicates that you want to write the file. Next. Here, OFH.write. What is that you want to write? D. As simple as that. Write the content. Okay. Let us see the simple things work. As it says, Pramod, Mohit, Sujit, Mohit again. Okay, my job is done. Now it says that you cannot give directly dictionary inside that writing. It should be converted to normal string. You cannot give the dictionary there, right? So we cannot directly write the dictionary content. That is what he says. So if you see D, it is there. If I want to do conversion, it is possible. You can convert dictionary to string using str. You can do that. Okay. So what we can do is directly it is not possible. So try to convert it. Try to convert it. So more Sujit. Exit. Now it is done. The file would have been created. So let us go to the command prompt. What is that file? Results.txt. Is it there? We'll do one thing. ls result star. Yes, there is a result.txt. How to display that? Now command language is required, command knowledge. So result.txt. Nothing was written. Not right. 1 second. Once again. Yeah, we will do one thing. We will try to see the contents there itself. The Python editor. File open. What is the file? Result. Do one thing. Text files. Text files. So result. No, it was not written. Result.txt. One second. Let us check. Into a file Python. Maybe one problem might be permission. Let us see that. Is it really permission or what actually? Any programming labs? We'll check which is wrong here. Okay. First, we will check our syntax is correct. Okay, open the file and write it. That's all. They say that you have to close the file. Okay, we will do that also. We'll close and check. How to close? OFH.close. They may say that after closing, your content will get reflected. We'll do that and check. We'll test for a very simple case now. Pramod and exit. And then go to the terminal. Here itself, okay. No need of terminal. File. Recent files, result.txt. Yes. So closing is required. Okay, because without closing, it will not reflect the content. The content will be in the memory itself. It will not close. It will not reflect until you give close. So closing is compulsory there. You have to close the file so that contents will get written. Okay. So many other things you can do, like you can process the dictionaries and other things. You can make it in a for loop. You can sort it. Many other things are possible. But that itself is a big subject. Okay, Python itself is a very big subject, and many options will go on. What I did try to do was just to give a brief overview, and I therefore took a single program. Even though I have got a presentation, I just changed the thing and I took a single program so to incorporate the features. And if you summarize, if you just open the program right now and check what we have done till now, we started with the simple reading from keyboard, printing it, welcoming somebody. Then we thought that why not put a welcome message, workshop also, which is the workshop. We did that. Later we thought that why everybody should get welcome, let only registered people, let us identify who is registered, who is not registered. So we maintained a list. Later we thought of it is simply coming out for one input. So let it repeat. We then check it for finite and infinite. Infinite while true, and for finite, for loop, while loop. We have checked that. Then what we thought was, okay, we want to track how many times they have entered, how many times they have come into my system. So I use a dictionary concept. Okay, everything was going fine. Later I thought that it was not a scalable solution. Why? Because the users I have to add in the program itself. So I separated it out. I maintained a separate file where I am adding the users. Now my program is reading from the file rather than from the program directly. Later, we also thought that why to show the result there itself, let us put it in a file so that at any time they can see that. Okay. So then we again used file handling for writing, and later realized that while writing, you have to close the file. And the thing is, it will not append actually, it will overwrite. The mode W here will actually overwrite. Okay. So if you run again, it will overwrite the previous content. If you want to retain the previous content, you have to use append. So while opening the file, there are three modes. Default is reading. You can open for writing. You can also open for appending. So mode actually gives you your intention, what you want to do with the file, whether to read, whether to write, whether to append, like that. Okay. This is what I have, and also one small thing I would like to conclude before that. Coming to the shell actually. See, Python does not support data types, but suppose if I write like this, a is equal to 3. If you want to know what is the type, just use the command type. Sorry, made a mistake there. You have to first start Python, a is equal to 3, and then use type of a, integer. Later I can change it. Then NC I will get, and then give type of a. This becomes a string. Later I will make like this. It is dynamic. That is what we call dynamic typing. Type can change during the program running itself, runtime. The type of the variable can change during the runtime. It is called dynamic typing. Okay, and then type a. Now this is a list. Okay, so like that we can keep changing this. One more thing like A is equal to Shimoga, 3000 cases are there. Bangalore, 10,000 cases are there. And then type of A. And you ask me what is this? It is dictionary. Yes. Python is similar to that of C or C++. I mean, yes, absolutely correct. Print cannot be capital print. Yes, if you try that, sorry, you're absolutely right. It is case sensitive. No, not defined. You have to use lowercase. Okay? Case sensitive. All the functions are case sensitive. All the variables are case sensitive. Right? Python is case sensitive. Correct. Unlike like C. Actually, there are languages like JavaScript or PHP, which is case insensitive. Functions are case insensitive in PHP actually. Okay? But in these languages, it is case sensitive. Right? Normally, camel cases are followed. Okay? Yeah, this is what I have got. Actually, I did not do the presentation part because I thought programming would be better. I'll share the PPT, no issue. I've done the PPT for all these things to just give it a glimpse what was planned. This was the things. Anyway, no need to bother because just theory would not be useful. It is all about hands-on what we actually promised you, and we thought doing a single program could help. Okay. Yeah, that's what. Thanks for you. I thought because one single program, if we can go on adding the features, we'll learn writing programming. That is what I felt, and rather than demonstrating that, yeah, AI is used in Python. Actually, there are deep learning libraries like we have got Keras, TensorFlow. I'll just show you. Many options are there. Like one of the option is PyTorch. I'll tell you what is the use of PyTorch. Just I will tell what is there. I will show you. If you are into AI, basically you can go for PyTorch. Okay, it is even better than Anaconda, right? So PyTorch can be used. Blog tutorials. It is a very good library, PyTorch, which helps you to learn the deep learning, AI, all those things, right? This is one thing. Deep learning we can do, artificial intelligence we can do. Okay. Also, we have got something called as Keras, TensorFlow. They're all meant for the same thing, right? But if you want to use fuzzy logic and other things, there's a different library. PyFuzzy or something is there. Okay. Artificial intelligence is very big. There are so many areas. Neural network is there, right? For everything, there is a package available. Like one more thing. If you want to use convolution neural networks, you can use this only, Keras or TensorFlow or even PyTorch. PyTorch is better. It is getting demand now. And what I suggest is don't use any editors. If you want to use deep learning or other things, use Google's Colab facility. It's not like you have to simply buy some big systems and keep in the institution. You have to use those things. Google's Colab. You can directly do all those big programs what you plan for. Okay, so they can be used, right? Okay. So artificial intelligence, again, neural networks, fuzzy logic, expert systems. For everything, there are modules in Python. Yeah. It is not possible. Just now I discussed, print is not possible. Yeah, I think Sir Pramod sir has answer to the question also. Yeah. They will be discussing in detail there, right? Yeah, case sensitivity, somebody asked, I told, that is case sensitivity, and Python is case sensitive, okay? So capital print is not same as lowercase print. Yeah. Any other doubts are there? Of course, it's a very big language, just we have given the overview here, because 1.5 hour session, as you know, is not sufficient for the complete picture. Just a small picture glimpse of language we have shown you. Recording is there, you can also use that. And any other doubts are there, they will share you the links, my email ID, and you can use that. Okay. You can talk. Yeah, I think that's it I have. Yeah, you can create functions. Okay, to talk about functions, very good. Didn't discuss that. Like, see here. Rather than writing a monolithic program like this, what we can do is we'll break it into functions. How to do that? Okay. Let us take the input part. Okay, let us take the input part and shift it as one function. How to write that? Define, the keyword define, and let us say input part, some name I will give. Okay, don't bother about the name, colon, and you return that. Okay. And how to call the function? Just call by name. So name is equal to, what is the function name? Input part. Input part. Sorry, input part. Okay. This might be processing part. So let us create one more function. Define processing. Supply the name, put the code. Okay. Then call that function. What is that? Processing. Then these things can be done. So what we have done is the program looks now simple because there are two functions, input part and processing. One is using argument, one there is no argument, and return same thing as in C. You can do that, but only thing is you have to use the keyword def. You can't use flower brackets. You have to use colon. Okay. Let us just check whether it is still running the program. I think there is some syntax error immediately. Outside the break, I think for loop is missing there. Okay, while. Okay, if name is there, don't use break then. You have to use return. Come out of the function abnormally, you can use return. But in that case, I can do something like this. Return -1. And what we can do here is, if name, small changes we have to do when we use functions, and then we can use break here. Because break is meant for loops, that's all. So we cannot use within the function. A small code change I did there. Yes, enter your name, Pramod. Enter your name, Mohit. Okay, exit, done. File is created. So functions can be used. You have to use the function def. Of course, functions will help you to reuse. Even classes can be used. You can create classes. Inheritance is possible. Exception handling is possible. You can use try catch. Yeah, that is what user-defined function. We can create it, as you can see in this. This syntax is for creating user-defined functions. And if you want to do exception handling, there are statements like try and except. You can do that, use that. Yeah. I think that's it we have for the session. Any other doubts, we can take it later because the next session is also there, I think, after that. Yeah. Thank you for your patient listening. Right. Yeah, over to you, Pramod.
Thank you, Chetan sir, for your wonderful session. Python as well as various Linux commands. Now let's break for lunch and we'll get back for the afternoon session, for the post-lunch session at exactly 2:30. Thank you one and all.
Thank you. Right. Thank you all.